The room was dark and cold. Strange blue lights glowed on the walls, showing shadows that looked alive. A man slowly opened his eyes. His head hurt, and his body felt heavy, like he had been sleeping for years. The air smelled sharp, like metal and chemicals mixed together. When he tried to move, he realized he was lying on a hard surface, not a bed. The sound of machines hummed around him, steady and deep, almost like a heartbeat. He sat up slowly and looked around, confused, afraid, and unsure where he was. His memory was broken. He remembered being taken by soldiers, dragged into a ship, and then nothing but darkness. Now he was awake inside what looked like an alien lab. Tubes and glass containers lined the walls, filled with strange glowing liquid. Shapes floated inside some of them, half-formed bodies that made his skin crawl. He felt like he was in a nightmare he couldn't escape. Then he heard a soft cry. Not from a machine, not from the shadows, but from something alive. He turned his head sharply, his heart beating faster. In the corner of the room, behind a tall glass tank, stood a figure. At first, he thought it was another alien, but when she stepped forward, his breath caught in his chest. She looked almost human, with pale skin and large dark eyes, but her hair shimmered like silver under the blue light. She held something small in her arms, wrapped in thin cloth. The man froze. His mind raced. The figure looked at him, and her lips trembled as she whispered, "You're awake, finally." Her voice was soft but carried fear. He tried to speak, but no words came. She stepped closer, and he saw the tiny form she was holding. It was a baby. The cry he had heard was from that child. The baby was strange yet beautiful. Its face was small, with soft skin, but its eyes shone faintly with a glow that was not human. He could not move. His body shook with disbelief. "What is this?" He finally managed to say, his voice breaking. The woman, or maybe the clone as he would soon learn, clutched the baby tightly. "It's yours," she said, her voice low, almost afraid of the sound of her own words. His heart stopped. His chest felt heavy, and his mind screamed that it was impossible. A human man could not father a child with an alien, but the proof was right in front of him. The baby opened its glowing eyes and looked at him. He stepped back, his knees weak. "No, this can't be real." His voice was shaking. He wanted to deny it, to believe this was another nightmare, but the child's cry broke that thought. The woman's face twisted in fear and sorrow. She whispered, "She will come. The queen will come. She must not see you with us. If she finds out, nothing can save you, or this child." The man stared at her, his body cold. His mind spun in circles. The queen? He didn't even understand what was happening, and yet he knew he had no time. The woman explained in a rush, her words sharp and desperate. She was not the queen. She was a clone, made from the queen's blood and body, created for experiments. She had been forced to carry this child, a human seed mixed with alien blood. It was forbidden, something that had never happened before. The child was living proof of what both sides would call impossible. The man's hands shook. He wanted to touch the baby, but fear held him back. He didn't know if this was a miracle or a curse. The woman looked at him with wide, pleading eyes. "Do you hear that?" she whispered suddenly. He froze. At first, he heard nothing but the hum of machines. Then, slowly, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside the lab. Slow, steady, powerful. The sound was not human. Each step made the floor vibrate. His breath caught in his throat. He looked at the woman, who clutched the baby tighter, her eyes filled with terror. "It's her," she whispered. "The queen is coming." The man's heart raced faster. He felt trapped, like an animal in a cage. His mind screamed at him to run, but his body would not move. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and the air seemed to grow heavier. The baby started to cry again, louder this time, the sound filling the room. The woman rocked it gently, trying to calm it, but her hands shook. She looked at the man, her eyes wide with panic. "Please, you must live. For the child. If she sees you, she will never let you go." The man's chest tightened. He didn't know what to do. His eyes darted around the lab, searching for an exit, a weapon, anything that could help. But the walls were solid, the doors sealed, and the footsteps were right outside now. The humming of the machines seemed to stop, as if even they feared the arrival of whoever was coming. Then, the sound of metal scraping filled the air. The door to the lab was opening. A line of bright white light cut through the darkness, stretching across the floor. The woman gasped, pulling the baby close to her chest, tears shining in her eyes. The man clenched his fists, ready to fight even though he knew he couldn't win. The door opened wider, and the air grew heavy with the scent of power, of something ancient and dangerous. A tall shadow filled the doorway. The figure's presence was overwhelming, making the man feel small, fragile, weak. The queen had arrived. The woman whispered one last time, her voice breaking. "Don't look into her eyes. If you do, you're already hers." The man's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. The baby cried louder, the sound echoing through the lab like a desperate call for help. The queen stepped forward, her silhouette sharp and terrifying, and the man realized the nightmare was only beginning. The air in the room grew heavy as the queen entered. Her tall figure filled the space, and her steps were slow but powerful, like she owned everything around her. Her skin shimmered faintly under the blue lights, and her eyes glowed with a sharp light that made the human's body stiffen. He had never seen anything so terrifying and beautiful at the same time. The clone holding the baby trembled, lowering her head, but the queen's eyes were not on her. They locked onto the human. For a long moment, the queen said nothing. She only stared, her gaze cold and unreadable. The human tried to stay strong, but his legs felt weak. The baby let out a soft cry, breaking the silence, and the queen's head slowly turned. Her eyes fell on the child, wrapped in cloth. She walked closer, her long cloak dragging across the floor, her presence almost crushing the air out of the room. The human's instincts screamed at him to step in front of the clone and the baby, but his body would not move fast enough. The queen stopped just a few steps away. Her gaze rested on the child, and her lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "So," she said, her voice smooth but heavy like iron, "it is true. My clone was not mistaken." The man swallowed hard, his throat dry. "What do you mean?" His voice cracked slightly, and he hated that she could hear his fear. The queen's glowing eyes shifted to him, and she tilted her head as though studying a strange insect. "You gave life," she said slowly, every word sharp. "A human dared to touch what belonged only to me, and yet you did not die." Her voice grew colder. "Instead, you left behind a child." The clone tightened her grip on the baby, lowering her head further, almost like she was bowing. The human's heart pounded. He wanted to deny it, to say it wasn't true, but the queen already knew. He could see it in her eyes. The queen leaned slightly forward, her expression unreadable. "You created what no one else could, a child of human and queen's blood. This is no small thing." Her tone shifted, less anger and more curiosity. "Do you even understand what you have done?" The man clenched his fists. "I didn't choose this. I didn't even know." His words spilled out, but he knew they sounded weak against her power. The queen only stared. Then, to his shock, she laughed. It was not the laugh of joy, but something darker, like thunder hidden in the distance. "You gave life to my blood," she said again, her smile widening. "And yet you stand there trembling, thinking you can walk away from me?" Her voice rose, and the walls seemed to shake with her words. The man's chest tightened. "What do you want from me?" The queen stepped closer until he could feel the heat of her presence. She looked down at him, her height towering over his human frame. Her eyes glowed brighter, like twin suns burning through the air. "What I want," she said softly, dangerously. "I will not be left out. If a clone can bear your child, then I, the true queen, will have my own." The words struck him like a blow. He stared at her, stunned, his mind unable to process what she meant. She was not angry at the clone. She was not even angry at him. She wanted him for herself. The clone gasped softly, looking up in horror. "No, Majesty, please." She began, but the queen silenced her with a single glance. The man shook his head, disbelief rushing through him. "You can't be serious," he whispered. But the queen only smiled more. "You will not run," she said calmly. "You will not hide. You belong to me now. Your blood has already touched mine, and it created something no one thought possible. You think I will allow my copy to keep this gift while I stand aside? No, human. You will give me what you gave her. You will give me an heir of my own." His stomach twisted. Fear and anger battled inside him. He wanted to shout, to fight, but he knew she had power he could not defeat. He saw the clone trembling, pressing the baby close, as if she knew that any wrong move would mean death. The queen's tone turned colder. "You should be proud. Do you not see? You are weak, fragile, mortal, yet you did what no alien has done. Your child will change empires. Entire worlds will bow when they see the bloodline you created, and you will stand beside me, not as a slave, but as the father of a dynasty." The man felt his chest tighten again. She wasn't asking, she was commanding. He realized then that her power was not just her body, but her voice, her will. It was heavy, pressing into his mind like chains. He tried to resist. He forced his eyes down, refusing to look directly at her, remembering the clone's warning. Don't look into her eyes. His heart pounded. "I won't be part of this," he said through clenched teeth. The queen's smile vanished. The air grew colder, sharp like ice. For the first time, her voice cracked with anger. "You think you have a choice?" She raised her hand, and the machines in the room rattled from the energy that flowed around her. The baby cried loudly, the sound echoing against the walls, almost drowning the tension. The man stepped forward without thinking, placing himself between the queen and the clone holding the child. His body shook, but he stood tall. "If you want me," he said, "you leave them out of it." The queen stared at him, her eyes narrowing. Then slowly, the anger melted into something else. Interest, amusement. Her lips curved again, and her voice dropped low. "Brave. Foolish, but brave. Perhaps that is why the child exists. Perhaps that is why I want you." She turned, her long cloak brushing the floor as she walked away. Before leaving, she spoke without looking back. "You will not escape me. You are mine. If you resist, the child will pay the price." The door closed behind her, leaving the silence heavy and choking. The man's fists were tight, his chest burning with anger. He looked at the clone and the baby. He knew then he had only two choices: give in to the queen's demand or fight against her power, no matter the cost. The silence after the queen left was heavy, like the air itself did not want to move. The man stood frozen, his chest rising and falling fast, his fists still clenched. His eyes shifted to the clone, who held the baby close to her chest. She was shaking badly, her lips pale, her body weak from fear. The baby's soft cries echoed in the cold lab, breaking the quiet like small cracks in glass. The man finally forced himself to speak, his voice low and urgent. We can't stay here. If she meant what she said, she will come back. Next time, she won't leave us alive." The clone lifted her head, her big dark eyes full of fear, but also something else, desperation. "She always gets what she wants," she whispered, rocking the baby slightly. "No one ever says no to her, not even the strongest warriors. She will never stop." The man moved closer, lowering his voice. "Then we have to run. We don't have a choice." The clone stared at him for a long moment, almost like she couldn't believe he had said it. "Run?" she repeated, her voice trembling. "Do you know what happens to those who run from her? They are hunted, tortured, killed slowly, so everyone sees what happens to those who resist." His jaw tightened. He looked at the small baby, who was so fragile, so unaware of the danger closing in. "If we stay, she will take the child. Do you want that? Do you want her raising it, using it for her throne?" The clone's arms tightened around the baby. Her lips pressed into a thin line and she nodded quickly. "No, never." The man looked around the lab. He spotted a metal door at the far end, half hidden behind pipes and machines. He walked to it and pressed his ear against the cold steel. Behind it, he thought he heard faint sounds, drips of water, maybe the distant hum of another corridor. He searched the walls and found a panel, its lights blinking faintly. Without thinking, he smashed it with his fist. The sparks flew, and the lock hissed open. The clone gasped. "You'll bring the guards!" "They'll come anyway," he said firmly. He pulled the door open, and a rush of damp, cold air spilled into the room. Beyond the doorway stretched a narrow tunnel, dark and wet, like it had not been used for years. He looked back at her. "This is our way out." She hesitated only for a moment before nodding. Hugging the baby close, she followed him into the tunnel. The door closed behind them with a soft click, and the lab was gone. The tunnel was tight and smelled of rust and mold. Water dripped from the ceiling, hitting the stone floor in sharp drops. Their footsteps echoed, but the man moved as quietly as he could, his ears sharp for any sign of pursuit. The clone followed close behind, her breath shaky, the baby pressing tiny cries against her chest. Minutes passed like hours. The tunnel bent sharply, leading them deeper underground. The man's body ached, but he forced himself forward. His mind was filled with one thought: get them out, get them safe. Then, behind them, a sudden sound cut through the darkness. An alarm. Loud, shrieking, angry. The tunnel walls shook with the force of it. Red lights blinked to life above them, flashing wildly. The clone gasped, nearly dropping to her knees. She knows! The man cursed under his breath and grabbed her arm, pulling her forward. Keep moving! From far behind, the sound of boots striking the ground echoed. Alien soldiers. Their growls and metallic voices carried through the tunnels. The hunters had been unleashed. The man pushed himself harder, leading them deeper. The tunnel opened into a wider chamber with pipes running along the walls. He scanned quickly, searching for a way out. He saw a grate high above with faint light spilling through it. It was their only chance. Climb, he ordered, moving beneath it. He bent down, offering his shoulders. The clone hesitated, her arms full with the baby, but he looked at her sharply. Trust me, climb. She placed one foot on his shoulder, carefully holding the child against her chest. The man groaned under her weight, but pushed himself up, lifting her higher until her hands reached the grate. She pressed hard, and with a loud creak, the metal cover gave way. Cold, fresh air rushed in. The sound of alien soldiers grew louder now, their weapons clattering, their voices barking orders. The red lights strobed violently through the tunnels, making every shadow look alive. Go, he shouted, pushing her higher. The clone pulled herself up, dragging the baby with her, and slipped through the opening into the space above. The man grabbed the edge, hauling himself up with all his strength. His muscles screamed, but he forced himself through just as the first soldiers rounded the corner below. Their glowing eyes flashed as they saw him escape, and a blast of energy fire struck the wall where he had been only seconds before. He landed heavily on the other side, gasping for air. The clone was on her knees, clutching the baby tightly, her face pale but determined. He pulled the grate back over the hole, locking it in place just as more blasts echoed from below. The chamber above was wide and filled with broken machines, old crates, and dust. It looked abandoned, forgotten by time. The man quickly pulled the clone behind a stack of metal boxes, keeping low as the soldiers' angry voices shouted from below. The baby whimpered softly, and the clone kissed its forehead, whispering, "Shh, little one, please." Her voice broke, but she fought to keep calm. The man pressed his back against the cold metal and closed his eyes for a moment. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst. They had escaped, for now. But he knew the queen would never stop. The clone looked at him, her eyes shining with fear and something else, hope. "Where do we go now?" she whispered. He opened his eyes, his jaw tight. "As far as we can, until she can't find us." But deep down, he knew the truth. The queen's reach stretched farther than he could imagine. Running would not be enough. She would hunt them to the ends of the stars. And sooner or later, he would have to face her again. The air in the abandoned chamber was heavy with dust. The man leaned against the broken wall, his chest still rising fast from the escape. The clone sat nearby, cradling the baby close to her chest, rocking it gently so it would not cry too loud. The baby's glowing eyes peeked out from the cloth, small and curious, as if it did not know the danger around them. The man could not take his eyes off the child. Every time he looked at it, his heart twisted between fear and wonder. The child's skin was soft like a human baby's, but faint markings ran across its arms and forehead, glowing faintly with alien light. When its tiny fingers reached out and touched the man's hand, he froze. The touch was warm, fragile, but he felt something more, a strange energy, like the baby carried power too great for its size. His chest tightened as he realized this baby was not just a mix of human and alien. It was something new, something that had never existed before. The clone noticed his stare and whispered softly, "Do you see it? He has your eyes, but the marks, they are hers. The queen's blood runs through him too." The man swallowed hard. He wanted to deny it, to push away the thought, but he could not. The baby's glowing eyes looked at him again, and for a moment he forgot the fear, the running, the queen's hunters. For a moment, he only saw life, pure and innocent. But the clone's next words cut deep. This child will not be hidden for long. If the queen takes him, she will raise him as her weapon. If the humans discover him, they may try to kill him, out of fear. Her voice shook. "He belongs nowhere, except with us." The man clenched his fists. "Then we protect him, whatever it takes." Before she could answer, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the walls above them. The man froze, tilting his head. The footsteps were not far, Metal boots clanging against the floor attacked voices in a language that was sharp and harsh. The Queen's hunters had tracked them. The clone gasped and hugged the baby tighter, trying to muffle its soft whimper. The man scanned the room quickly, searching for a way out. His eyes fell on a half-broken staircase leading up into the shadows. He motioned to her silently, and they moved. The stairs creaked under their weight, each sound loud in the silence. The man kept his body low, his ears sharp. As they reached the top, they entered a wide corridor lined with cracked walls and old alien symbols glowing faintly. It looked like part of the ship that had been abandoned long ago. The baby let out a soft cry. The clone shushed it quickly, her arms shaking. But it was too late. From behind them, a roar echoed through the corridor. The hunters had found their trail. The man turned, just as three tall figures stepped into view. Their bodies were covered in dark armor, their eyes burning like red fire. They raised their weapons, glowing spears crackling with energy. One of them growled in a low voice, "The Queen wants them alive. Do not kill the child." The man's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no armor, just his body. But he stepped forward anyway, placing himself between the soldiers and the clone. His voice was rough but steady. "You'll have to get through me first." The soldiers laughed, their voices cold and sharp. One charged forward, swinging the spear at him. The man ducked low, the spear slicing the air above his head. He grabbed a broken pipe from the wall and swung it with all his strength, striking the soldier's chest. The alien stumbled back with a roar, sparks flying from the armor. Another soldier lunged at him, fast and deadly. The man barely dodged, the spear grazing his arm, burning his skin. Pain shot through him, but he forced himself to stay on his feet. He jabbed the pipe forward, hitting the soldier's face. The alien fell back with a howl, but more boots thundered in the distance. The clone's scream tore through the corridor. The third soldier had reached her, grabbing her arm and trying to pull the baby away. The man's blood boiled. With a furious roar, he charged, slamming the pipe across the soldier's head. The alien crashed into the wall, releasing her. She stumbled back, clutching the baby tightly, tears running down her face. The man stood in front of them again, his chest heaving, sweat and blood dripping down his skin. The soldiers growled, rising to their feet again, their eyes glowing with hate. But then something unexpected happened. The baby cried loudly, the sound echoing like a bell through the corridor. The glow in its eyes grew brighter, and suddenly the air itself seemed to shift. The walls trembled, the ground shook, and the soldiers froze. The baby's cry turned into a strange hum, and energy rippled through the corridor, pushing the soldiers back. The man and the clone both stared in shock. The baby's markings shone like fire, and for a moment the hunters looked terrified. They lowered their weapons, stepping back slowly, as if afraid to come closer. One hissed, "The Queen was right. This child is dangerous." The man wasted no time. He grabbed the clone's hand and pulled her down another hallway, running as fast as he could. The baby's glow slowly faded, its cry turning soft again. Behind them, the soldiers shouted orders, but none dared to rush forward immediately. They stumbled into another dark chamber, their bodies trembling from fear and exhaustion. The man leaned against the wall, his chest burning from the fight. The clone sat down, still holding the baby close, her tears falling silently. He looked at them, his heart heavy but burning with determination. The child was not just a mix of two species. It was something greater, something that frightened even the Queen's strongest hunters. He knelt down in front of the clone and whispered, "This child isn't just ours. He's proof that humans are not weak. He's proof that we can change everything." The clone looked at him, her eyes wide and full of hope for the first time. "Then we must keep him safe," she whispered back. The man nodded firmly. But inside, he knew the truth. Keeping the child safe would mean facing the Queen herself again. And next time, she would not let them escape so easily. The night inside the ruins was quiet, but the man knew silence did not mean safety. He sat with his back against the wall, his breath heavy, his arms still burning from the cut of the alien's spear. The clone was beside him, cradling the baby close. The child had finally fallen asleep, its glow dim, but its tiny breaths gave the man strength. For a while, they only listened to the faint hum of the old machines around them. Then the silence broke. A sudden coldness spread in the air, a presence so heavy that even the machines seemed to grow still. The clone stiffened, her eyes wide with terror. The man felt his chest tighten. He knew what it meant. She was here. From the far side of the chamber, the air shimmered. Shadows twisted, and then the queen appeared. Her tall frame glowed faintly, her cloak trailing across the floor. Her eyes locked on the man immediately, burning like two suns. She was alone. She didn't need guards. Her power was enough. The clone gasped and bent her head, clutching the baby tightly. The man stood, his body weak but his will sharp. He tried to steady his breathing, but his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The queen's voice filled the chamber, smooth but cold. "Did you really think you could run from me? Foolish human. My hunters told me what they saw. The child glows with power. It is more than even I expected." Her lips curled into a faint smile. "And you still resist me. That only makes me want you more." The man clenched his fists. "You won't have him. You won't have any of us." The queen laughed softly, her voice echoing like thunder. She stepped closer, and every movement carried unbearable weight. "I don't want the child. He is already mine by blood. He carries my mark. Nothing can change that. What I want," she leaned forward slightly, her eyes narrowing, "is you." The man froze, his breath catching. She continued, her voice low and sharp like a blade against his throat. "My empire is dying. Enemies rise against me, even within my own kind. But you created something no alien has ever done. Your blood touched mine and gave life. That means you are more than just human. You are the key. With you, I can give my throne an heir stronger than any warrior. Without you, I will fall. Do you understand now? You are not weak. You are necessary." The clone lifted her head, her eyes full of fear and anger. "Majesty, please. He is only a man. Don't take him. Don't make him your prisoner." The queen turned her gaze on the clone, and her smile vanished. Her voice cut through the air like ice. "You were made to serve. You are a copy, nothing more. You carried what I should have carried. Be grateful I let you breathe." The clone trembled, lowering her head again, her tears falling silently. The man's chest burned with fury. He stepped closer to the queen, even though every instinct screamed at him to stay away. "I will never give you what you want," he said, his voice rough but firm. For a moment, the queen was silent. Then she tilted her head, studying him, her eyes glowing brighter. "Never?" "Careful, human. Never is a dangerous word." She raised her hand slowly, and the air grew heavy, pressing down on his body like invisible chains. His knees shook, and his breath caught. He felt as if her will alone could crush him. She lowered her hand slightly, and the weight eased, though not fully. "You speak of refusal, but you forget what I hold. Your child." She looked at the clone, who clutched the baby tighter. The queen's smile returned, sharp and cruel. "If you do not give me what I want, the child will not live to see another sunrise. I do not need him to rule. I only need the proof of what you can do." The man's body went cold. He had faced her threats before, but this was different. She was not just demanding, she was offering a choice. His life, his body, in exchange for the safety of the child. His chest rose and fell quickly. He knew she wasn't bluffing. He forced himself to speak, his voice hoarse. "You think power comes from force, from fear, but you don't understand. That child isn't just yours, he's ours, and I will protect him, even if I have to die doing it." The queen's smile faded again. Her eyes locked on him, unblinking, like two blades piercing through his soul. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the baby's soft breathing and the hum of the old machines. Then, slowly, the queen lowered her voice. "You truly are different from the others. No alien would dare speak to me like this. No one would defy me so openly. And that is why you cannot escape me." She leaned closer, her words almost a whisper. "I will break you, human. Not with chains, not with blades, but with what you cannot resist, the life of your child." Her words hung in the air like poison. The man's heart thundered in his chest, and rage burned inside him. But he also felt something else. Resolve. He could not run anymore. He could not hide. If he wanted to save the baby and the clone, he would have to face her, outthink her, and outfight her. The queen straightened her tall body again, her glowing eyes never leaving his. "Decide soon," she said finally, "because time is not your ally." With a wave of her hand, shadows swirled around her, and in an instant she vanished, leaving only silence behind. The man dropped to his knees, gasping, sweat running down his face. The clone rushed to his side, still holding the baby, her voice shaking. "She will never stop. What will we do?" He looked at her. his jaw tight, his eyes burning with determination. "We fight," he said. "We fight with everything we have. She wants me because she thinks I am weak. I'll show her that humans are not weak. I'll show her that no queen, no empire can take what is mine to protect." The baby stirred, its small hand reaching out, touching his arm again. The warmth of that tiny touch filled him with strength. He stood slowly, his body tired but his will stronger than ever. The queen had made her demand. Now he would prepare his answer. And when she came again, she would not face a frightened human. She would face a man ready to defy a throne. The night stretched long, filled with shadows and whispers of danger. The man did not sleep. He sat against the wall, his eyes sharp, listening for every sound. The clone rested nearby, her arms wrapped tightly around the baby, who slept peacefully for the first time. The man's arm still burned from the wound, but he ignored the pain. His mind kept replaying the queen's words, "You will give me an heir of my own, or the child will die." Those words dug into his chest like knives. He knew the queen's power was far greater than anything he had faced. Her hunters had weapons, armor, and strength, but she had something more dangerous: control. She could crush him without lifting a hand. He had seen it, felt it when she pressed her will against his body. But he also knew something about her now. For all her power, she wanted him alive. She needed him. That weakness was his only chance. He stood slowly, his body stiff, and looked around the abandoned chamber. Broken machines, scattered pipes, and old metal pieces lay across the floor. His eyes narrowed. A plan began to form in his mind. He bent down, picking up scraps of wire, sharp pieces of steel, and fragments of glass. The clone stirred, her tired eyes opening. "What are you doing?" she whispered. He looked at her, his face set with determination. "If she comes again, I won't just stand here. I'll be ready." The clone's eyes widened in fear. "You cannot fight her. She is too strong. You saw what she did. No man has ever resisted her and lived." He clenched his jaw. Maybe no man ever tried hard enough. His voice was steady, low, but full of fire. Hours passed as he worked, setting traps with the broken scraps. He tied sharp metal pieces to wires, balanced heavy objects on edges, and spread shards of glass across the floor where footsteps might fall. His hands bled from cuts, but he did not stop. The clone watched in silence, her fear slowly turning into something else: hope. Finally, when the chamber was ready, he sat again, his body aching but his heart stronger. He looked at the baby, who stirred softly, its faint glow lighting the shadows. "I'll protect you," he whispered, almost to himself, "even if it costs me everything." Not long after, the air shifted. It grew colder, heavier. The clone gasped and pulled the baby closer. The man's body stiffened. He knew what that meant. She was here. The shadows moved, and then the queen appeared again. Her tall frame glowed faintly, her eyes burning brighter than before. This time, there was no smile on her lips. She looked at him with sharp interest, like a predator studying its prey. "You prepare traps for me?" she asked softly, her voice almost mocking. Her glowing eyes moved across the chamber, noticing the wires, the shards, the heavy objects balanced above. "Do you think I can be stopped with toys?" The man stood tall, his body tense but his eyes unbroken. "I think you can bleed, and if you bleed, you can lose." The queen tilted her head, her lips curling into the faintest smile. "Brave words. Let us see if your courage lasts." She lifted her hand slightly, and the air pressed down again, heavy and crushing. His knees bent, his breath caught, but he forced himself not to fall. His muscles screamed, sweat ran down his face, but he glared at her. She stepped forward. Her foot pressed onto the glass shards, and the crunch echoed in the chamber. She glanced down, amused. "Do you think this will save you?" The man's hand snapped forward, pulling a wire hidden under the rubble. A heavy metal beam dropped from above, crashing down toward her. The queen moved faster than his eyes could follow, stepping aside, her cloak brushing the ground. The beam smashed into the floor, sparks flying. The queen's eyes glowed brighter, her smile gone. "You dare?" she hissed. She moved forward again, but another trap sprung. Sharp steel wires shot across the path, slicing the air. One caught her arm, leaving a thin line of dark blood on her glowing skin. She looked at it in shock, then back at him. For the first time, he saw it. Her pride had been wounded. The man tightened his grip on the broken pipe in his hand, ready to strike. "You said I was different," he said, his voice loud now. "Maybe you were right. I won't be your slave, and I won't let you take the child." The queen's eyes narrowed. She raised her hand, and a wave of force blasted through the chamber. The trap shattered, the glass flew, the wires snapped. The man was thrown back against the wall, the air knocked out of him. He groaned, his vision blurred, but he forced himself up again. The queen approached slowly, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. "You are clever, human, stronger than I thought, but still, you are only flesh. You cannot fight me forever." She reached out her hand toward him, her long fingers glowing faintly. The baby suddenly cried out, its glow flashing brightly, stronger than before. The light filled the chamber, and for a moment, even the queen stepped back, her eyes narrowing. The man used that moment. With a roar, he lunged forward, swinging the broken pipe with all his strength. It struck her across the shoulder, and she staggered slightly. Her eyes blazed with fury now, her voice rising. "Enough!" The air around her crackled with power, shaking the chamber walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the floor cracked under her energy. The clone screamed, shielding the baby with her body. The man braced himself, ready for the full force of her wrath. But then she stopped. Her glowing eyes softened, and a strange laugh escaped her lips. She raised her hand and wiped the thin line of blood on her arm, staring at it. "You made me bleed," she whispered, almost to herself. She looked at him again, her smile returning, but this time it was not mocking. It was fascinated. "No human has ever done that. Perhaps you are worth more than I thought." She stepped back slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "This is not over. I will have you, one way or another, and when I do, you will give me what I demand. Remember this moment, human. It is the first time in centuries anyone has made me bleed." With that, she vanished into shadows, leaving the chamber broken and heavy with silence. The man collapsed to his knees, his body shaking from exhaustion. The clone rushed to him, tears streaming down her face, clutching the baby close. "You fought her," she whispered. "You made her fear you." He looked at her, his chest heaving, his body weak, but his eyes still burning with fire. "I won't stop," he said. "Not until she knows that humans don't break." The baby reached out again with its tiny glowing hand, touching his chest. The warmth filled him, stronger than before. He knew the fight was far from over, but for the first time he felt something powerful rising inside him. Not just survival, but defiance. And he was ready to face her again. The ruins were silent after the queen vanished, but the man knew it was not victory. It was only a pause, a storm waiting to strike again. He sat against the wall, his body covered in cuts and bruises, his breath heavy. The clone sat beside him, the baby glowing faintly in her arms. For a few minutes, there was peace. But inside him, there was no calm. He knew the queen would return. And when she did, it would be the final confrontation. Time passed slowly. The baby stirred, its tiny hands glowing brighter than before, as if sensing what was coming. The clone kissed the child's forehead and whispered a lullaby, but her voice shook with fear. She looked at the man, her eyes full of worry. "She won't stop until she has you, or the baby." The man clenched his fists. "Then this ends here. No more running." As if answering his words, the air shifted again. The walls trembled, the lights flickered, and the cold presence returned. The queen appeared at the far end of the chamber, her tall body glowing with fierce energy. This time she was wounded still, a thin scar across her arm where his trap had cut her. But she did not look weaker. She looked more dangerous. Her glowing eyes locked on him, and her lips curved into a cold smile. "You fought me. You made me bleed. And yet you still stand. Impressive. But you cannot win. You know that." The man pushed himself up, his legs shaking, but his eyes steady. "Maybe I can't defeat you, but I can defy you, and I will never give you what you want." The queen's smile faded. She stepped forward, her cloak dragging like a wave of darkness. "Do not be foolish. You think bravery will protect the child? My power can crush empires. I could burn this place to ash with a thought." The man stood his ground. "Then do it. But if you kill us, you'll never have what you want. You'll lose the only chance you have at an heir stronger than your throne." Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. For a long moment, she said nothing. The silence stretched, broken only by the baby's soft cry. The sound made her pause. Her gaze shifted to the child, and something changed in her face. Not anger, not cruelty, something else, something almost human. She stepped closer, her tall figure casting a shadow over them. The clone trembled, holding the baby tighter, but the queen raised a hand gently. "Let me see him." The man stepped in front of them, his voice firm. No. The queen's eyes flashed with fire, but then she laughed softly, her voice deep and strange. So protective, as if you are more than human. You remind me of the old kings of my people, long dead. She leaned closer, her gaze sharp. Perhaps that is why I cannot kill you. The man's chest tightened. If you can't kill me, then let us go. Leave us. Her smile faded again. She shook her head slowly. No, I cannot let you go. You are bound to me now. You proved yourself by surviving what should have killed you. You fathered life where none should exist. That makes you mine. Her voice lowered, dangerous. But I will not take you by force. Not now. You will come to me, willingly, or you will watch as the galaxy tears your child apart in fear. The man felt rage burn in his chest, but before he could answer, the baby suddenly began to glow brighter. The markings on its skin shone like fire, filling the chamber with light. The queen froze, her eyes widening. The glow spread through the walls, shaking the ruins. The baby cried out, and the sound was not weak. It was strong, powerful, like a call that reached beyond the chamber. The queen stepped back, her lips parting in shock. Impossible, she whispered. The man turned, looking at the child, then back at her. He's not yours. He's not mine. He's more than both of us. You can't control him. No one can. The queen's eyes burned, her pride wounded, but her face also showed something strange, respect. She looked at the child again, and then at the man. Slowly, her fierce expression softened. You've given me something no alien could, a future I did not imagine. Her voice was quieter now, almost reluctant. For that, I will not destroy you, but do not mistake mercy for surrender. She straightened, her tall frame glowing with power, though her eyes held a new weight. I will protect this child. Not for you. Not for her. She glanced at the clone briefly before fixing her gaze back on him. But because he carries my blood. If he lives, he carries my throne with him. That is something I cannot allow to be lost. The man stood tall, though his body trembled. Then protect him if you want. But remember this. The child isn't just yours. He's human too, and that means he will never belong to only you. The queen stared at him, silent, her glowing eyes unreadable. Then she let out a sharp laugh, cold but edged with something softer. So bold, so foolish, and yet perhaps so right. She turned, her cloak sweeping behind her. Very well, human. Keep your clone, keep your defiance. But this story is not over. One day you will stand beside me, and when you do, the galaxy will kneel. With those words, she vanished, leaving the chamber trembling with her power. The man collapsed to his knees, his chest burning, his body weak. The clone rushed to his side, her tears falling as she held the baby. She let us live, she whispered. For now. He looked at her, his face tired, but his eyes still burning with strength. She didn't let us live. We survived, and we'll keep surviving. The baby reached out again, its glowing hand touching his face. In that moment, the man felt something stronger than fear, hope. He wrapped his arms around the clone and the child, holding them close. The queen's shadow was still out there, watching, waiting. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. Far away, the queen stood alone in her throne room, staring at the scar on her arm. For the first time in centuries, she was uncertain. For the first time, she wondered if power was not enough. And for the first time, she whispered into the silence, "Human, you may yet change everything."